Yeah, I'm with the Environmental Justice Network Ireland, and also with the Rights of Nature Ireland movement as an activist too. So what is the rights of nature? So if nature or like a nature entity, like a river or a lake or a forest is granted rights, then what does that mean? So in general, that can mean that nature or this entity has the right to exist. It has the right to flourish. It has the right to evolve. It has the right to regenerate, and it has the right to be restored. And so I suppose each declaration can be different, but for nature, like for it to have meaning, then these terms are generally included. So it's not just the right to exist, but it's the right to do all these other things as well, to be healthy and to flourish. Okay, so lots of text there, but so basically just a quick global overview on the rights of nature, like the history of the rights of nature. So back in 1972, the Southern California Law Review published this article by Christopher Stone, Should Trees Have Standing Towards Legal Rights for Nature? So he described then how under existing structures of law, nature was considered rightless, having no legally recognized rights to defend and enforce. So that was kind of like a theoretical underpinnings of the concept. And it took a while then until the first outworkings of that became a reality. So in 2006, CELDF, the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund, worked with the small community of Tamaqua Borough in Pennsylvania as it sought to ban waste corporations from dumping toxic sewage sludge in the community. So CELDF assisted the community to draft a rights of nature law that bans sludging as a violation of the rights of nature. So with the vote, the Borough Council became the very first place in the US and in the world to recognise rights of nature in law. Can you see me moving my the video around, because I'm just trying to read the screen? No, you can't see that. Okay, that's right. Okay, so then so there was other and you can see this is taken from GARN, so the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature. So they have a really great timeline on their website. And so in between these, I've just picked out key ones. So there are more dates. So if you want to go back and get the full history. So then in 2008, so this is when the first country then declared the rights of nature, and that was Ecuador, who voted in support of the proposed constitution. So then Ecuador then became the first country in the world to recognise the rights of nature in its national constitution. And the folks in CELDF helped with that as well as some people from GARN. There's a lot that happened then in between Ecuador and 2021, and again you can read all about it. But 2021 is important for us because that's when we came on the map. So yeah, on the 28th of April, this was really our inspiration. So on the 20th of April, the Blue Mountain City Council became the first local council and first government entity in Australia to adopt the rights of nature as a foundational principle for its policies and planning. So when we saw this, like it was kind of like a light bulb for us, because we were thinking like how, seems like an uphill battle to get the rights of nature in the Irish Constitution. The North doesn't have a constitution. And, how could we embed rights of nature in Ireland? And then when we saw what was happening in Australia in the Blue Mountains Council, we'd already began to gather like communities from across the island to discuss the rights of nature. But we were like, what can we do? And then we saw this and we're like, great, we can do the same. We can get our councils to declare rights of nature in motions, and then following on from that in policies and planning. So then in 24th of June, Derry City and Strabane District Council became the first council on these islands. So not just this island, but across water, England, Scotland and Wales as well, to pass a motion recognising the rights of nature. And it was Maeve O'Neill, Councillor Maeve O'Neill, who brought that in Derry, and it was passed unanimously. There was 2 abstentions, but there was no objections or no negative vote. So then that set kind of a wave in motion, and from July to the rest of the year, more councils then began declaring the rights of nature. So Fermanagh and Omagh, Belfast, Newry, Morningdown, and then Donegal. And I see that Rose is on the call, and Rose and Bernadette were the 2 main drivers of getting that motion passed. Okay, so this is a lot of text. Just put it up as an example, and I'll share this presentation afterwards so you have it. This is taken from Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, and it's just an example of what a motion could look like. So each council has like slightly adapted text and had some form of these words, but they're just there as inspiration. So I'll just read it out. Maybe that would be better. So Fermanagh and Omagh District Council notes the legal and social movement globally for the rights of nature aim to strengthen protections for people, place and planet. We believe that rights of nature can help inspire an innovative rethinking about how to create regenerative, I can never say that word, not extractivist economies, while also making human and other living communities safer, stronger and more resilient. The positive work already being done by council staff and groups on the climate emergency and biodiversity crises are commendable, but we recognise the need for a rights-based approach to nature. We propose that over the next 6 months, this council will collaborate with civic society to explore what rights of nature means for people and economies of the region, and to investigate how rights of nature could be expressed in community plans, corporate plans, improvement objectives, and other strategic frameworks. In particular, the council will, in the next 6 months, hold 2 community workshops and work with local community and stakeholders to draw up a declaration for the rights of nature for the district area to be brought back before the council for adoption. We also request that a report authored in collaboration and with input from local community be brought before the council in relation to embedding the rights of nature as a keystone concept in the council's operational practices, planning processes and long-term decision making. So mindful of our mutual environmental obligations under Espoo Convention, we call on all councils north and south to also explore rights of nature for their council area, not least. And then they mentioned a few that bordered them. So I suppose the key things to pick out here is that they call on other councils to do the same, and they also recognize that it's a global movement, and also that they relate it to the climate emergency and the biodiversity crises. Okay, so while this was going on, the rights of nature movement then in the communities across the country who were promoting these motions, they would phone, and we did, and when I say we, at the time I worked for Friends of the Earth in Northern Ireland, and EJNI was also involved, but other groups as well. So when we were phoning around the councillors in advance of the motions, there were some common concerns that were brought up, and these are just some of them. So if you're thinking of bringing a motion before your own council, you might come across these similar objections. So like we'd not stop all development. We did decimate farming and fishing, and what about hunting? We don't have the scope to do that. It has to be central government, or we're doing it anyway in our biodiversity plans. So what we're hoping to do is to have a sort of answer sheet for all these common objections. So hopefully in the near future, get that together. But I won't go into if there's time at the end, you know, and you want, we can talk about a particular question or whatever, but just in terms of time, just leave those hanging. But there is responses to those questions. Okay, so life after motion. So passing the motion is a huge hurdle. It's a huge achievement, but then after that, you know, it's not the end of the road. So yeah, next steps after the motion, so the Rights of Nature motion is passed. So then the council and the councils that have passed this motion so far on the island, like, haven't got very far in this process. No, from Anna mentioned the time scale, but that hasn't really been they haven't really done what they were supposed to do in that time scale, and it was too short anyway. So yeah, like all the councils who have already declared motions are still at some stage in this process. But anyway, so from the start, and preferably in the motion itself, like they should commit to a participative process with local communities. So whatever is done, you know, after that point, it needs to all be done with local communities. So and maybe the PPN network has a framework already on how processes can be fully participative. Within councils, in North there's nothing like that. So yeah, there was what happened after the motion in certain councils definitely wasn't participative. Okay, so then with local communities, a declaration then for the rights of nature could be drafted. So the motion is a statement of intent, but then after that, then you have a declaration. And then there needs to be research done into all the ways that the council could embed rights of nature in the policy, planning, practice, and local laws. So this hasn't been done before. And looking at, you know, our initial inspiration, Blue Mountains Council, they're still also in this process. So and it was only like shortly before us, so they're still working it out too. And also the way our councils work is different to them, and also like the north of Ireland is different to the south. So there has been research done, like commissioned by Friends of the Earth in the north, into how rights of nature can be embedded in the local laws, like what possibilities councils have to make local laws. And so that's coming out soon. And then there hasn't as yet been similar research in the south, but there'll probably be more options in the south because councils have more powers in the south. So this is a real bulky part, like a real important step, to find out like how it can be done. And you need dedication from the council. You need buy-in from the council for them to fully delve into this, you know. All right, so then after that research is done, then they need to commit to a work program to make it a reality. And as that previous motion signaled to, like, you know, continued advocacy for the rights of nature with other councils and at national level, you know, it's important. So because obviously nature knows no borders. So if you have the rights of nature within your own council area, doesn't mean that rivers and watersheds are necessarily protected because they flow across council borders. So life beyond motion, so what's going on then outside of the council focus for rights of nature. So communities are declaring rights of nature. An example, in the Sparran Mountains, the Department for Infrastructure decided to abandon the Green Road, the ancient Green Road, to Dalradian, the mining company there. And so the community came out and declared their ancestral right to the road, and also the rights of nature, of the bog, of the rivers, that would be very negatively affected if the mining went ahead. And then some people are thinking about granting ownership to the land itself, like some who have land that they own, then giving the land back to itself. So there's discussions going on there too. There's a victim statement. This was the first as well. So the victim statement on behalf of the River Faughan in Derry was delivered to court. So he's maybe aware of the Moboy dump, which is the largest illegal dump in Europe, and contaminating contaminating the River Faughan and the Foyle, and so there is a court case ongoing of people who committed that illegal waste dumping, and so there was an impact statement drafted then on behalf of the river and delivered to the court. So you'll all most likely be aware that the recent Citizens' Assembly on biodiversity laws recommended that the rights of nature be adopted into the Constitution. So that's a real massive boost for the rights of nature campaign, because it sets then that ground, and if it is carried forward then, and if there is a referendum and then adopted into the Constitution, that would just open the doors then for the councils then to pass motions as well. They wouldn't be having that maybe reticence that this is something new or scary or whatever, but yeah, obviously that's another still has to be done there too. So there's a recently formed group as well working on the rights of the Shannon, and they drafted a UN commitment recently with the World Water Day. So they've joined with many other communities across the world to commit to realizing the rights of the River Shannon. There's been so much going on at a community level in terms of poetry and storytelling events, film showings, loads of conversations and cultural shifts. So part of the rights of nature, part of it is changing the story, changing how we relate to nature and how we see ourselves as part of nature. So that's all about storytelling. So that's equally as important as working on a legal or a legal or a policy basis. So that's part of it too. And there's been lots of that going on, which is great. And then obviously the possibility of more motions. Okay, so we have produced as EJNI, we've produced some resources. So we have a dedicated rights of nature page, and if you go on to the website, you'll find all these. So, what if a species had rights? What if rivers had rights? What if forests had rights? Just like we printed these out as well, and I have loads of them in my house. So if anyone wants them, I can post them. We're hoping to do more of those as well, because they were just 3 that we picked out, but there's what if a species had rights, what if lakes had rights, so there's more scope there to do more. And we produced some films, and again, for some reason there it is there. That didn't work first time. So I could play the start of of this one actually. I didn't do it at the start, just checking and see if it was my last slide. No, so I'll go back on that. So yeah, we produced 2 films. The first one was kind of more theoretical or setting the concept. And then the second one is more about the movement, what's going on a community and wider level, the rights of nature movement here on the island. And then the rights of nature community then. So there's a community hub, and that's been set up and facilitated by Mary McGuigan from the Gathering, and we meet once a month. The next one is next Tuesday at 8 p.m. and you're all invited. There's also a WhatsApp group, and yes, as I said, there's a group focusing on the rights of the Shannon. And then hopefully we can have a Rights of Nature Council working group. And maybe that could be combined with, if the community hub meets at 8, the council, it's just a suggestion, that could maybe meet like half an hour earlier or an hour earlier or something. Because, the community hub it's a great space for all the different things going on in the rights of nature movement, but also it's good to be focused